Are you thinking about investing in buy-to-let property to buy a property and rent it out? These 6 steps are what I think are important to get started in property. 1, make a plan. It seems obvious, but so many people out there, and I watch it happen every day, just decide to get started with property without really thinking about what it is they're trying to do. So you've got to be specific as to what are you trying to achieve out of property. A good place to start is, what income do you need to be generating passively to live your current lifestyle? And whatever that is, whether it's £3,000, £4,000, £10,000, it's probably a good idea to work from there, that you want to generate this much passive income, and then work backwards from there as to how you're going to do it. But you've got to create some sort of specific plan. What are you specifically wanting to achieve? Tony Robbins talks about creating massive action plans, and all of the crux of what he is talking about with that is trying to make a vision, a mission, very visceral, very real, so that in those darkest moments you can look back at this plan that you have in the future and actually be able to push through and dig deep, because achieving what you want is not actually about pushing when it's easy. Achieving what you want is pushing when it's hard. 2, choosing your market. Now, this is going to be different for everyone. For me, because I live in Hertfordshire, I live in St Albans, just outside of London. I started by looking at, maybe I want to invest in St Albans, and quickly realised, wait a minute, it's expensive, the yields are very low, you can't get many property deals. And so I naturally gravitated towards Luton, cheaper, better yields, more property opportunities. And so a lot of my portfolio is there, but obviously my home buying company, British Homebuyers, operates across the UK, trading properties and selling properties and sourcing properties for investors. But my personal sort of focused strategy around my kind of long-term portfolio, so to speak, was based on where I lived and where I identified good yielding areas near there so that I could manage those properties effectively. So for you, it's going to be different. You've got to be thinking about what market do you want to target. Have a look at where you live, look at those properties online, look at what they rent for, start to figure out what areas are good and bad, and actually if you put the time into figuring that out, it will become more and more obvious. 3, start getting leads. It sounds obvious, but you've got to start talking to people, getting leads of properties that are on the market. The easiest way to do that, of course, is to go onto Rightmove, go onto Zoopla, talk to agents, build relationships. The way I started was, creating a website, generating leads through Google AdWords, by sending letters to properties. There are loads of different ways to do it, but you've got to start generating leads in some shape or form so that you're looking at properties. And that links to tip 3, which is you've got to start analysing these deals, analysing these leads. Once you've got all the leads coming in, by whatever way you're doing that, you might even be talking to sourcing agents, because we source properties for investors all the time. But there are loads of different ways to do it, but ultimately you have to get analysing. And when you get analysing deals, you learn deal by deal by deal what makes a good deal, what makes a bad deal. You start to realise how the numbers add up, and if they don't, they don't, if they do, they do. And it becomes easier and easier to basically see the wood from the trees as to what is a good property opportunity, what isn't. But you've got to get started, you've got to be analysing. If you're in a job, you've got to be spending the hours before that job and after that job, your lunch breaks, your breaks, looking at deals. 5, figuring out your financing. Now, you're probably thinking, why don't you start by figuring out your financing? But the reality is you want to get tuned into being able to identify what are good deals, because when you can identify good deals, it actually often isn't hard to finance them. Because if the numbers add up, a bank is going to want to lend you the money. Or if the numbers stack up, an investor's going to want to lend you the money with an interest rate, or a bridging loan provider is going to want to invest in it, or if it's a great deal, you might even want to package and sell that to someone else to buy, as another investor to buy that investment from you. But really the tough bit is not always the financing. The tough bit is actually generating the deals. Once you've generated these great deals and you're actually able to see the wood from the trees, it becomes a lot easier to then figure out, okay, how am I going to finance this? And also, when you've got the emotional when you're emotional about knowing, like, this is the deal, this is what it can make, this is what it's going to cost me, you'll all of a sudden find ways to finance it. If let's say tip 1 was analyse how you're going to finance something, and financing that thing was going to require you to remortgage your house, and therefore increasing your costs each month in order to invest in some arbitrary thing you don't understand yet, the chances are that's going to make you feel anxious and concerned. You don't want to take on more debt. You're concerned about taking on more debt and it not working because you don't understand what it is at that stage you're investing in. If you know what you're investing in, if you're passionate about it, if you know it's a deal that's going to work, then all of a sudden the idea of remortgaging your house to invest in a deal is a no-brainer. And finally, 6, repeat. Repeat. Once you've figured it out once, and the first time will be the hardest, you can then do it a second time, a third time, a fourth time, a fifth time, each time learning, getting better, improving, networking, building relationships with solicitors, mortgage brokers, builders. You'll refine it. Like literally, for me, the last 10, 12 years has almost flown by. But when I look back at how I started and what I knew, which was literally nothing, to now, it's night and day. I almost look back, I don't know how I did what I did, but it was just pure naivety of just putting in the work, putting in the sweat equity to just learn, repeat, learn. If you've enjoyed this content, check out my other videos, and importantly, please like and subscribe, because liking this video tells YouTube that I'm doing a good job, and so it will help elevate the video for others to watch it. And also subscribing makes me feel good, makes me feel like people care about what I'm sharing and want to hear more. Anyway, take care.